Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone for coming to this session. I would like to thank Zorica and also Adriana. I don't get often to meet many people with my same name. I think it's prettier as Adriana than as Adrien, but it's the same basic name. And I would like to thank the Institute of Social Sciences and the Institute of Philosophy and Social Theory for sponsoring me. Zorica, I guess you told them, I met you in Iowa in 1996 or 7, and we have not seen each other all this time. And when I thought of coming to Serbia this winter, I said, I will see, where is Zorica? So I Googled her name and found her and emailed her, and within a few hours she emailed me back. And I said, oh, when I come, I would be willing to do one talk. And so this is the second of 4 talks that I am doing while I am here, and I'm very, very happy to do so. Before I discuss my topic, I would like to know if you could introduce yourselves in terms of your name and what organization or institution you are affiliated with. This will help me to have a little bit of an idea of who is joining us today. So I guess we can start here with the gentleman in the room, one of 3.
I was a professor of art philosophy at the Art Academy in Belgrade, retired from 2009.
Pleasure. Okay, the young man next to you. Yes, who are you? Where are you from?
From Belgrade. I'm working here at the Institute. I'm a sociologist.
Okay.
I'm a student of sociology here in Belgrade.
Student?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Mackinnon, a radical feminist, lesbian, and counselor for women raped in war, but now in a counseling group for lesbians, and also activist for women black against war, and in the last 20 years, fascist activist, and very much into the race issue with Roma women in this country. So I'm very happy.
She is one of the most prominent feminist leaders here.
Okay.
My name is Diana Melvinovic-Serba. I'm a feminist and human rights lawyer for more than 10 years. And I'm, let's say, I represent the DIDEA and New Women's Organization.
And?
My name is Adrien. I'm also working here at the Institute. I'm a PhD student and part-time student.
Hello, I'm Gazela Draško. I work here at the Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory, and I'm also a PhD student in sociology, dealing with nationalism and intellectuals in Serbia.
My name is Heidi Olević. I work here also at the Institute of Social Sciences. I'm a senior fellow here. I'm working here as a researcher in the Institute of Social Sciences.
She is a doctorate candidate.
I'm Katherine. I'm from the Institute of Philosophy and Social Theory, and for the last 7 years I led the Gender Equality Directorate. Because of that I'll have to leave about 12:15 and have a PhD from Purdue in nationalism, and on my committee members was Ruth Gordon, I'm sure you know that.
Hi, thank you once again for your arrival in Belgrade. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Marina Pavlović. I came in Belgrade here 4 years ago, and I'm holding 2 positions here in Serbia in the governmental establishment of Genetic Authority, and as well I am the policy advisor for the Atlantic Council of Serbia. And as well I'm working very hard on the promotion of the women's rights, and especially I work in Palestine for the help in terms of terrorism, because my subspecialization is actually counterterrorism, and especially to help out women in those kind of situations which we have, but not only post-conflict, but especially in terms of therapy. So this is one only of the positions which I'm having here in Serbia.
Hi, my name is Marina Schwabik. I just came from New York, so I practically live in the United States. I'm a lawyer by training. I have one master from New School for Social Research and Philosophy, which is on George Gadamer and interpretation. And then the newest, I have a second degree on Harvard Kennedy School of Government. My specialty there was really rights of senior immigrants, which we call diaspora, but it's another issue. I work with Marina on another program, and currently I'm a director of Tesla Science Foundation, and we actually work on promoting life and legacy of Nikola Tesla. Nothing to do with feminism or human rights, but in essence, through Tesla's life, we see how people can be discriminated in different ways.
Okay, this is very, very interesting for me to see the array of backgrounds. This lecture is mainly talking about the U.S. context, but one of my other specialties is Palestine, the Palestinian legal system, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. I assisted in drafting the Palestinian Basic Law, the constitution that's supposed to be governing them. In terms of questions, please feel free to raise those issues as well. I have a variety of material, and based on the prior presentation, I know I will probably not be able to cover all of the subjects that I have proposed. I will leave a copy of the PowerPoint with Zaritza so that she can forward it to you, and you can look at it in more detail and email me with any questions that you might have about it. But before I start, I want to know, each of you came here today with a certain background, and perhaps there are particular issues or questions you want to be sure that I address. So I want to hear from you now. Is there some particular subtopic that you want to know about, which I then may emphasize more, or I may insert that into what I have? Yes?
Well, I'm particularly interested in the tensions between black and white feminists.
Yes, okay. That will be covered.
How would a candidacy of Mrs. Clinton energize the, I would say, the post-feminist movement? Say the new or post-feminist movement in America.
Good. I have that in here too.
I am interested in the tensions between so-called separatism, so Afro-American separately, then inclusion. Because I'm lesbian separatist and always need more, let's say, I need more argumentations. Why is this important? As I heard you, there is also something called black lawyers, for example.
Yes.
I didn't know about that. So I think it's crucial that we know more reasons why it's also important to have this, and all about also about multiple, being women and black, because we just have absolutely new research and a small book from a Roma lesbian about Roma lesbians in this country. So this multiple discrimination, how to handle.
Okay.
Intersectional.
Good. We call either multiple or intersectional identities and discrimination. I put up here the English spelling of my name, so that if you want to go to my website at Iowa, or just Google my name. The Iowa website will come up and you can click to my courses I teach. I have over 100 publications. And if there's a publication you would like, you could email me if you don't have access here to Lexis or Westlaw, or I can get you a copy of a publication if you would like that. So I put this spelling up here. Okay, so the main things we're going to talk about are two jurisprudential themes that have developed in the United States. We call them critical race theory and also critical race feminism. And I will explain what they mean. The terms are being used somewhat in other countries. I have been to critical race conferences in the UK, for instance, where they are using this concept or this name to describe some of the work. First, critical race theory. The critical comes from something called critical legal studies. Did any of you hear of this before? It started in the 1970s. What happened was that in the 1960s you had some white men who were young in college. They became part of protest movements, progressive movements. Then they grow up, they become lawyers, they become law professors, and they are not happy with how the traditional approach to law is handled. Traditional approach in America to law is that law is objective and neutral. And we examine what the judge, because we are common law, what the judge says, and he is objective and neutral in what he does. Well, these men, including Mark Kelman, they were like, this is not true. Law is decided by rich white men in the American context who own property. It always has been since the founding of America. And this is the approach that is still existing in American law schools in the 1970s and all the way up to now. So most of the decision makers would still be white men with property, even though there could today be some blacks, some women, some others. So they developed some theories based on class analysis. Some of them would have called themselves leftists, communists, socialists, some kind of word back in the 70s that we don't use any of those words now, but they were leaning this way, class analysis. Okay, so some of them were considered neo-Marxist intellectuals and other kinds of progressives. And they were influenced by the European postmodernist philosophers that we all know, like Derrida, Foucault, and others, who are not legal people necessarily at all, but the kinds of ideas influenced them. So this critical legal study starts, and there were some offshoots from it. One is critical race theory, and one was also feminist legal theory in the United States. Critical race theory happens because some minorities in the US became professors, and they say, well, we're interested in what critical legal studies men are saying, but everything for them is class. They don't understand race. This is a critique many people had for decades about Marxist analysis, that everything is class and not anything being race. At the same time, some women began to be hired in law schools. The same thing. They said, we are interested in progressive analysis of law, but these men presume everyone is male, and they don't understand that gender may affect what happens. So at the same time as these are developing in law, the other disciplines are also developing similar analyses. In other words, there are people doing race analysis who would be in sociology, history, etc. Race studies we have African American studies, Latino studies, Native American studies, Asian studies. All of these are developing in America at the same time. Also, women who are not lawyers were developing feminist analysis, of course, at the same time. So critical race theory has produced a variety of books over the past 20 years or so. Some are anthologies, some are, substantive collections. And once again, if these books, you get things off of Amazon and all of these kind of websites, you can order these kinds of books. Some of the people, men and women, who were involved initially with critical race theory include some of these people. Professor Bell at the top, he has since passed away, but he was one of the main founders. So we have both men and women, mainly black or African American is the same thing, okay? And some were Latino, like Professor Delgado. Okay, I will not go into all the details on this page. Like I say, you can have a copy of what the elements of critical race theory are. But I have highlighted one in particular that I know is of direct relevance to your situation here as well as people elsewhere. We have the idea that race is socially constructed. It has nothing to do with biology whatsoever. So for instance, in America, I am a black American. In Brazil, I am considered white. In South Africa, I am considered what they call colored. So I am the same me wherever I travel, but each society constructs me into a category, and it may be the law in that country still will put me into a category, or the reality for most countries is the law today does not overtly say I am in a separate category, but the reality, the de facto reality, is that I am in a subordinate category in how I'm actually being treated. So for instance, every survey shows blacks have a lower salary. Every survey. Every survey shows women have a lower salary in the same job, in the same university, in the same category. So we're not talking about does a maid have the lower salary than a professor, of course, but that I am a chaired professor in my university and my salary is lower than men who are chaired professors in their various departments. So every survey shows this. So it is not the law, it is the reality of how things happen. So we call this the social construction of race. Okay, so in your country you have the Roma, you may have some other groups of people, minority groups of people, and they have been constructed historically and currently into categories where their statistics will show that they are at the bottom of every indicator, including jobs, including schooling, including economy, etc. So we call this social construction of race, okay? That's the most important element out of this page right now. The other one I'll talk about briefly at the bottom is called praxis, the combination of theory and practice. We feel it is important not to just have a theory about these issues, but to have some of us, lawyers and professors, involved in changing the conditions or pushing the society to change the conditions, whether that is the law, the government, the social sectors, the personal life, that we must push to make change. Racism, sexism, homophobia, all of these and many other discriminations have existed for many, many centuries. They will not be ended in our lifetime. We can work toward improvements in these areas. So that is also my personal view. So even though it's depressing that this is the reality, I am not looking that everything will be fixed in my lifetime. I have 5 sons and I have 8 grandchildren. I am not looking that it will be solved in the lifetime even of my grandchildren, but it is something we have to work on to improve. There are some people in critical race theory that think racism is permanent, that it can never ever be eliminated, that it's like being an alcoholic. You have this disease called racism forever, but you can be in treatment. You can control it. And there are others of us that say, no, 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 that's too depressing. Maybe we can get rid of the problem even if it's 100 or 200 years later. So we have a dispute in our movement about this. This critical race theory has various sub-areas that have developed. We have one area called critical white studies. What does it mean to be white? Once again, socially constructed white. This is the topic of what we call white privilege. Once again, every statistic shows that whoever is considered white in America, they are doing better. It doesn't mean there are not poor white people. It just means as a group, whites have more of everything. This is a controversial idea because there are many whites, including some people who are very conservative, who feel this is racist to say that all whites are privileged. And so our view is not every person who is white, but the system puts whites as a group above other groups. We also have Latino Studies for the condition of people who are called Hispanic or Latino or Latina. They can be any color. Some could be what we would call white, some black, but the fact that they come from people who speak Spanish or from Latin America, they may mainly be Catholic. There are certain issues that affect them, especially immigration issue, anti-immigration issue. We have Asian crit, because Asian Americans are a big, giant pan ethnicity. Some of them are richer, like Japanese and Chinese, who have been in our country longer, but some could be Cambodian or other groups who are, as a group, poorer, and they also have discrimination against them. We have even something called Indian crit. At the bottom, Professor Anaya, these are Native American, or also called American Indian. There are only couple million of them out of 300 million Americans. So they are almost extinct. But they have special status under our law. They have reservations or areas they control, legal systems they control, but they face a lot of discrimination. We have also what we call queer crit. Issues regarding sexual orientation, and even queer race crit. So men and women of color who also are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgendered face many discriminations as well. And there are articles and then some books on all of these topics. Okay, of course, in terms of feminist legal analysis, we have probably our most famous feminist in the law would be Katherine Mackinnon. She's still active, she's still teaching, she's still writing. And to me, one of her favorite books she did several decades ago, Feminist Theory of the State. Not just, what's domestic violence and women, but no, the entire state operates in a sexist manner, which everyone here would understand, but many everyday people do not. So she was the primary legal feminist, but she was criticized that she presumes, and many white feminists in America presume, all the women are white. They have not been able to understand that if you are a woman of color, or you are lesbian, you are going to have other things that are affecting you that may not affect a white woman who is more privileged. So we developed something that we call, or some of us call, critical race feminism. This is one of my books that Zurika mentioned, where we are focusing on this legal status of women of color under the law. How we face multiple simultaneous discrimination. because race, gender, and other identities. Women who are not in law, some of them have something they called Womanist Theory, which is also about women of color, but you find this in literature, people like Toni Morrison or other people not in law. We'll skip that. So what we have evolved, and in my own work, is things are not just about race, gender, sexual orientation, and even class. Actually, we have many, many, many more identities than just those. Each of us in the room has all of those identities and many more every second of every day. On some days, one or more of your identities may subject you to discrimination or privileging at the same time as another identity is subjecting you to the reverse. Okay, what do I mean? Okay, I'm a black woman. Some days in the US, being black, I can have somebody treat me badly. They just see black woman. But that very day, I then got on the airplane business class and I flew to France to run my program. So flying business class to France is a privileged position, and I have access to money to live in different countries, to come here, that puts me in the 0.001% of people in the world. So I must acknowledge that my class status, my education status, is putting me in a privileged position at the same time that I could walk outside and somebody calls me a bad word and does something bad to me. So the intersection, in other words, is much more complicated than just saying I have only this or only this or only that. Okay? My nationality, sometimes being an American makes me privileged, where I can go to many countries with no visa. I can land in this country and I walked in here, I didn't need elaborate visa. Can you just do that? No. Can you just go to the United States and walk in like I walked into your country? No. And I, of course, personally think this is ridiculous, that as Americans
should be applied.
We could, yeah, everybody, it should be the same. Either everybody can go everywhere or nobody can go anywhere, and you would all have to go through the same process. So sometimes my American status privileges me. On the other hand, as we know, there are many people who hate Americans, who don't like them, who would like to blow some of them up. And so it could be, depending where I go on a certain time, I would not want to be focusing on that I'm an American. This could subject me to being physically attacked, kidnapped, or something. At the same time that I have other identities as a professor that are privileging me. So this is some of the work, for instance, that I have done in my own writing to talk about how much more complicated identities and discrimination really is. Unfortunately, the law in the United States and in most countries, you can pick the race law, you can pick the gender law, but what if it's both? And what about if I'm disabled? And what about if it's sexual orientation? And there could be many things happening to me, but the law may make me pick only one, because generally the law cannot handle this complexity yet. I am happy to say in South Africa, this is not the case. I helped with the South African Constitution. They have an equality clause that lists all of those identities in one clause. They studied our system. They wanted to make a system that would not have the problems we have in the United States with choosing one kind of discrimination law. So in South Africa, if I am a Zulu, South African Zulu who is light-skinned, who is Catholic, who is unmarried, who doesn't speak good English, who is 70 years old, who is a lesbian and in a wheelchair, you see all those identities I just made. The law can handle that. It can handle it. So It's very interesting. Their cases have been handling the intersectionality of all of this. The last identity I will mention will be one you may not have thought of, or maybe you have. I call it stature identity. It's how do you look for your culture. People in any country who look what is considered beautiful or handsome for that culture do better. They do better in jobs, they do better in who they can marry, and so on. If you are a minority person, if you have features that look like what is beautiful for the majority, you also will do better in your life. So somebody like Halle Berry, right? Halle Berry, beautiful woman, Beyonce, their features are pleasing to white people. So even if they weren't famous, they would do better in our society. Studies show this. Lighter people, lighter black people do better. They've shown it economically. And in school, the same thing. So every country will have different standards of beauty, but the people who will fit into the beautiful or handsome category do better. So that's very interesting how that intersects then with all the others. Okay? So if you are a woman of color in the US context, and you have some of these that are privileging you and some that are making you feel discriminated against, then you have to look at how would we help this person. Just saying we will help this one thing, we will send her to school, that's only handling one problem when maybe she has many problems. She has a school problem, an employment problem, a domestic violence problem, a sexual orientation problem, many problems, and so the solutions must focus on the problems, not just one. Because then you focus on one, and you say, oh, well, she failed. That woman, we gave her a job, but she didn't go. Oh, did you handle her child care? Her one identity was mother. Oh, we didn't do that. Well, of course, how did she go to the job if she couldn't have the child care? Oh, she has trouble walking, but you put her in a job where she has to walk up the steps, and you didn't even think, how could she do that? So it means all of our legal systems would have to deal with multiplicity of the problem. So in our critical race feminism, we are what we call anti-essentialist. There's no essential woman, there's no essential black, there's no essential gay. We are anti that. We are looking at the complexity of all of these different identities. So we have scholars who are writing in this way. The Womanist Theory, Alice Walker is one of the literature people. We have some of us, including me, who are looking at these issues beyond the United States. So this is another reader I did, anthology, where Zarica has contributed an article, and she talked about Roma in Serbia and domestic violence and how they are treated, the women. And so we have many of us focusing on how some of the concepts from critical race in the US may or may not apply once you get outside of the US context. We do not feel we could just take something totally from the US and give it to some other country and think that this other country could just do what we do. Because each country, you have your own unique history and context. It could be something that we have said, you may feel, oh, we could develop something that fits our society and our history, and if I can talk to you about what we have done or what other countries have done, I'm happy to do that. But I would never go anywhere and do what we think imperialism has done or neocolonialism, just say, you take this because we are in America and we know everything. No, we're against that kind of approach. The time is very limited. So this PowerPoint talks about a variety of issues that I won't go into a lot of detail, including discrimination we have in criminal law, in hate speech, talking badly about different people, in the economy, in prison population, in education. In our country, the issue of gun violence is very big because we permit the public to own guns. We are one of the only countries in the world that permits this, and in Texas there are 3 guns for every 1 person. 3 guns for every 1 person, and many people die from these guns. So for instance, this is not your issue right now in your country, of the population having guns that they are using against each other. Not that I've heard, right? This is, the public doesn't have access to this level of weapons. And then also I talk about political empowerment of women and people of color. So, of these issues listed right here, which one are you interested in hearing about?
Educational discrimination.
Okay, and political empowerment? Okay, we will go. This one is hate speech. Look at, somebody put this up as if the president's wife, you know, like they're monkeys. You know, we get this, many attacks against Obama that are very racist, right? Not just political. Anyway. You say education. In education, we have a problem. Many of the minorities end up in prison. Do you have this with the Roma? Yes. Where many end up in prison, right? And then they're derailed. So we have this too. One of the problems we found is you have to get more teachers from the group. Do you have a lot of Roma teachers? No. This is hard to get, right? But you need Roma teachers not only for Roma children, but for non-Roma people as well, so that you see that, oh, Roma are not just poor or criminal or uneducated. They also can be teachers, doctors, lawyers, accountants, etc. So in the US we have a problem. We have many minority children, but not enough minority teachers. And this is a problem. We'll skip this. At the college level, university level, we have policies like affirmative action that have permitted for many decades black people like me to go to the best universities. But even when we go to these universities, we face discrimination from professors and from students. This one just happens to say, you know, if I have an opinion, why are you looking at me like angry black woman? If I was a man and said the same thing, a white man, you wouldn't even, you would say, oh, he's smart, he's a good student. If I do it, then, she's angry black woman. So that's just an example. I am not from Africa, I'm from Chicago, where people will think, oh, you must be an African. No, I'm actually from the town where this university is. We have what they call standardized tests, right, that people take. You must have some kind of testing. And I'm sure here, the Roma will score less. In our country, for instance, you see whites are scoring, in the 80s, they were scoring this, blacks were this. Here it's all the way, like 20 years, and it's still the same. We have been unsuccessful in improving the status. But people will say, you have a black president. His status as being a black president has not fixed anything with centuries and decades of discrimination. Actually, he did not focus on black people as president. He has not focused on black people. He has told black people, I am president of the United States, not president of blacks. He is actually not a black American in the traditional sense, since, right, his mother was white, his father was from Africa, and he was raised by his white family. He was not at all raised by black people at all. He socially constructed himself into a black man when he went to university. So his reality is a different reality than most of the black Americans who are, like my family, who are descendants of slaves who have been in the country for many decades.
What about Michelle? His wife.
Michelle is a black American. So part of his social construction of identity was marrying a black American woman from the south side of Chicago whose parents were working class. This is part of what helped him to deepen his African American roots. And so he does identify as a black American, but his background, many people who are black and white would say, but he's not what we mean. So we have affirmative action, but there are many states that, and universities that want to eliminate it and say, no, we don't want to help people because of their race. Maybe we will help them because of their class, which gets us back to class analysis. But even though you may be from the middle class as a black, you still face discrimination. Maybe not the same as the poor black, but you still face discrimination. So my personal view is you still need this policy for black people because we face discrimination, and it should not be only for class. Because there are many, many poor white people. If you just do it on class, there will be no poor blacks because there's so many more poor whites. And poor whites need help too. And that should be done as well. It shouldn't be either this or this.
Can I ask a question about affirmative action? Do you think it was a success? Because
Affirmative action?
Yeah, because I remember affirmative action when I was in the United States and I applied for jobs. Affirmative action was in some universities.
Yes.
And to me, it seemed that a lot of the times it was just lip service and
yes.
an excuse to, and so I went to far many interviews than I was seriously considered.
Yes.
There were jobs that I was seriously considered for.
It started in the 1960s and it's gone up to now. The main beneficiaries of affirmative action have been black, middle, or upper class people because they already could get an education and be ready to go to college. I'm sure you have this with Roma as well. It's very hard to take people with no education in their whole family at all, of any type, and in one generation say they should go to Harvard. So the people who go to Harvard are not those people. They are generally people who already had some access to education and resources. On the other hand, there are people who think you don't deserve to be let in, that people like you should not get in. So when I went to Princeton, I was in the 4th class of women. I was in the 4th class of blacks, where there were more than 1 or 2 blacks. So many people said, oh, you don't deserve it. You taking a place from a white. Well, at Princeton, the whites who were there were very rich white men for 200 years. So they had white elite privilege to go to Princeton. So yes, of course, they let somebody like me in. They let me in, but I earned an A average. A average. I graduated with high honors. So my view is a policy can let you in, but it is then up to the individual to say, I must work to maximize my, my opportunity. There are many whites who are let in because their daddy and their granddaddy and their great-granddaddy went, and they didn't work hard because they know they will be let in. Former President Bush, his grandfather went to Yale, his father went to Yale, he went to Yale and he did not get A's. He had C's. Even with C's, he went to Harvard Business School. If I had C's, I would not be admitted to Harvard Business School. So he could come along, as he did, all the way up to President of the United States. So my own view is the policy has worked for a certain small sector of people. Under critical race theory, we would see affirmative action, it's a Band-Aid on cancer. Racism is cancer. Racism is not a scratch. If racism was an occasional little thing that happened to a few people, then you can have Band-Aid of affirmative action. But if racism is cancer, you need chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation. In other words, systemic social change. If we want to help most black people move out of the bottom into the middle or the top, we would have to do major economic redistribution and help that we will never do. We cannot do that. The United States will not do that kind of redistribution. That's the only way to help the masses of my people who did not go to Princeton, did not go to Stanford, and they are in prison, they are getting killed, they are underemployed, and they are unemployed. Now, this program, if we have the next election, it could be, there will be, if Republicans win, programs like affirmative action will be under even more attack. So at any point, this policy could be eliminated, and so then it will not be available. Like in California, it's not available in the state university, University of California. They eliminated it in 1996. So when you go to the University of California, UCLA, where I went for a master's, there are no black students. 2%. 2%. It's nothing. This, to me, is a failure of the system that hurts black and white people. Those white people, and it's mainly Asians there, the Asians and the whites, if you don't see a black person as your classmate, you think it's because they are inferior. They are not worthy. You are going to lead your country, and you are thinking, this group, they are good for singing and dancing, sports, but not for being hired in my job, not for running the country. So this is the failure when you eliminate these programs, that the students and the faculty do not get a full sense of who is in the country and who must help it in the future. Does that help a little bit? I'm going now to political empowerment and women of color, and does it make a difference? And like, what about Hillary, right? There are many ways for women to have power. They can be appointed, as you saw. Condoleezza Rice, do you think she was well accepted by most black people? No, because she was from the Republicans. So some black people said, oh, we need her because she's black, but most said, no, she's not the right party. Then there are women like Valerie, who is a personal advisor to the president. Her power comes not from being appointed through the Congress, but through friend of the president and getting a job. Then we have women of color who are in the Congress. This one is Latina, and one is Asian, and she's also disabled and a veteran. We have women, this one is Indian from India. She is the governor of South Carolina, and she is Republican. Maybe somebody like her will be put forward to run for vice president when the Republicans are looking for diversity. Who knows what office did these women run for? Who is the woman on the left, the black woman?
Angela Davis.
Yes, Angela Davis. That's how Angela Davis looks now, right? She's like 70. So she ran on the Communist Party in the 72 or something. And you know Sarah Palin, right? What did she run for? She was in Congress. Shirley Chisholm. She ran for president decades ago from the Congress. We have no black woman now who can run. From the 60s. In Egypt, even recently, when Mercy was running, there was an Egyptian woman running. You didn't even hear about her, right? Then there are the women who get power through their family, right? Some are saying Chelsea Clinton will run for office. Carolyn Kennedy will run for office. We know these two women were related to leaders of their countries. So is this good? Is this bad? Is this good for feminism or bad if you come into power through a family connection? Men have done it for centuries. Why should women not do it? Or is that not good? Depends to me who the woman is and what does she stand for. You have had other women who have become leaders, but also who can be criticized. Then there's the role of a spouse. How often has feminism examined this? Michelle Obama is a lawyer. She made most of the money in their family. $300,000 a year she made. At the time he was elected, he made $100,000. She can't earn any money now as First Lady. So, what issues has she taken up as a woman while she's First Lady? Do you know?
She's losing money.
What?
Yeah. She's losing herself and she's losing money as well.
No, but what issue? Every First Lady must have an issue. Some of them take up better libraries. She took up two important issues. One is obesity. The fact we have an epidemic in America where most of the population is fat and the children are fat. So that's health. What did Hillary Clinton take up as First Lady? She tried to reform the whole healthcare system. Michelle Obama said, I know I can't do that. I'm also a Harvard-educated lawyer. I can't do that. So I have to take a female topic. She calls herself first mom, first mother. So she's taking this femininity, but doing a very important issue. Her other issue is helping the veterans' families. All the people who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, we have many millions of veterans, and there are many, many messed up people, mentally and physically. So, once again, she can't come out and say, let's redesign the whole veteran system. She says, I'm helping the families. I'm doing what women do. I help families. So I think she was strategically very wise to use femininity, but to still be able to hit in issues that she might have wanted to hit if she didn't have to also anchor herself in femininity. So, we're all waiting now. Will Hillary run? If she runs, will she help women? Will she be more helping of women than Barack Obama was helping of blacks? Will Hillary be more likely to help blacks because everybody's not looking at her for that? What do you all think? And if she does, will it make a difference? Will it make a difference in the foreign policy of the United States of America if it is George Bush, Barack Obama, or Hillary Clinton? Do you all think the policies toward your country or your region will be different under any of them?
No.
It doesn't seem to be so, does it? Based on history, is Barack Obama any different in his policies than George Bush to your countries? I focus on the Middle East. He's not. He's not, the policies are the same, basically, the same ideas. Now, you take the Palestinian issue. He wanted to be different. He came in saying, end settlements. He was crushed. The settlements are worse now. So he had an idea, but many presidents have had that same idea, and all of them were crushed. When Hillary comes in, well, she knows. She would not dare to say, end these settlements.
But that means that the institution of presidency is bulletproof from what you're just saying, which is, in a way, looking from another point of view, okay, it's good. That means that the best person, I'm not going into the election process, I'm saying if the best person is elected as a president, it really doesn't matter whether it's white, black, woman, man, which in a way, if you look at it with a different perspective, it's good. I'm interested whether her running, which is 2, 3, 4 years,
just a couple of years, yeah.
A couple of years, will energize the feminism in the U.S., and this is something from my personal point of view that the role of women in as much as we have all these books and these idols and whatever names they are, that actually it's retrograde, it's going backwards, and I think the numbers show that, and I think it's global, and this is what really worries me, is that we are in some kind of a retrograde historical period, where all this fine work that we have done from the 60s, 70s, and myself in the 80s, actually at one point opened the window, and I thought, oh my God, you know, there is a light at the end of the nutshell, and I see it's not happening, and that's what, I mean, presidents will be presidents, leaders will be leaders, but it's us, the normal people. And, you know, when I go for a job, am I really discriminated? Well, I'm not, I'm white, but, you know, as a blonde, good looking, you know. And I have to tell you, and I was just telling her, I experienced a lot of discrimination on that level. No, she cannot do her job, she looks good. So let's pick a different kind of woman. And I guarantee I can, but you know, in this country and in America, same thing. I'm Serbian. I experienced it at Harvard. I hate to say, yes, I was Serbian. It doesn't matter that I was American. So anyway, just you know, I wish that you know her running really energizes the way Sarah Palin, in funny ways, has energized some people. You know, I hope that Hillary energizes women, and I know in New York there is a number of things happening. You know. Gathering and assembling women to help her. I hope so.
She will be the candidate. If she runs, she will be the candidate. If other Democrats run, it will be because they want to be vice president or a future vice president or president, you see? Somebody else has to run because we have primaries. These primaries start in my state, Iowa. So if she comes to Iowa soon, we'll know, okay, she's really getting ready, right? Now, you brought up stature identity. What color is the hair of Bill Clinton?
Gray.
Gray, right? Probably what is the color of Hillary's hair? Gray, right? But this picture, and in every picture you see of her, she has her hair blonde-ish, right? Most women probably have their hair dyed if they are in politics. Some men too, but especially women, because you know, you must have a certain stature. The problem with blonde is if you're too blonde, in any culture, doesn't matter, there's a stereotype, blonde is dumb. So all of our TV shows, the women who talk on the news, they are not blonde. They are usually dark-haired, because dark hair means more serious. Yeah, this is just the truth, right? And so then you will, if you are blonde and good-looking, then in every culture it's like, oh, we'll hire her, we want her, but then they will think you can't do the work. And I realized all of us can stereotype. I had a student like this, blonde, beautiful. I thought, oh, her paper's going to be, and then she had the best paper. And I said, look, I was stereotyping. I assumed this myself. So it helps to know all of us can be doing stereotypes, even though we are specializing in race or gender. Now, for Serbia, when I said I was coming here, I had many friends who said, how can you go to Serbia? Everyone there is a murderer. Everyone there is a criminal. Are you safe? Are you... Right now, people said that, right? And so I'm sure if you come to America, there are people who will be anti-Serbian based on their stereotypes about what is Serbian. And so I realized, I knew I'm not going to be in danger, I'm not going to be, but I realized even for me, I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking there would be people looking at me like I am to be exterminated or I am not welcome. And I told Zarica and Adriana, everyone I have met, every taxi driver, every guide, every person on the street, they have all been nice. No one nicer than New York. They've been nicer than in New York. Everyone nice to me. Nobody making me feel like, what are you doing here? What are you? In New York, there are many people who will look at me and not be nice. So what does that mean? I can be more accepted in Serbia by just on the street, I'm just saying, versus walking in New York, or certainly if I'm in Atlanta or Mississippi or Alabama, I try not to go to these places where the race and gender discrimination is still really, really thick. Thick. So I am thinking, this gets back to the question, why do we even bother talking about race or gender? In one sense, maybe her foreign policy overall might be the same as compared to Barack Obama. However, because she is a feminist, and because as Secretary of State, she created an office, a gender office. She wanted to pass the Violence Against Women's Act, International Violence Against Women Act. She has helped women and talked to women in many, many countries. So we know she does care about women and has focused on them her whole life in a way that no male candidate would have done. No, none of them have done that.
Can I add something? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. The comparison of Ségolène Royal.
Ségolène Royal. Yes. Yes.
So what they're trying, because I worked with her, and she was demolished, but really, literally demolished by men. So I think that Miss Hillary Clinton will be running for the presidential, but white, rich guys will let her maybe to enter in this.
Well, they always try to demolish her.
That's it. You know, I mean, CNN cannot make our vision of life, of course, and especially media coverage. Media is really devious thing what's going on. So what happened with Ségolène Royal and Monsieur Hollande?
Is she all feminist? I'm sorry.
She's not feminist, is she?
I don't know.
No.
You worked for her.
She doesn't have to be transparent.
Hillary is all feminist for years.
I'm sorry, but Ségolène Royal was the Minister for Family and working for all women's issues.
No, that's
she
fine.
She was working to how to employ women. There is no races, classes, and stereotypes. I know how she's thinking.
I'm sorry, but really, this is politics. Ségolène Royal was demolished because she was socialist, and Hillary probably lose.
But I'm talking as a woman. Ségolène Royal, Hillary Clinton, you have so many women out there. I know, in Jordan, I was working in Amman, I know what happened with really great women who had not the chance even to show up because you have rich guys. Rich guys.
Of course, always rich men.
No men, Arabic world, whomever, you have rich guys. They're a little bit letting, you know, like in the aquarium, good nice fishes and retreating with good nice fishes, you know.
But you here have gender quota.
Yes.
Which we in the U.S. will never have. So you at least have a legal way to get some women into some positions.
I know. I'm like
Who are those women? Yeah.
Wrong women.
Not the right women.
Not the right women.
Let me define this for a second. Okay, well, let's not speak about parliament as it is. They're representatives of people, and they truly are. And men are not no better. A lot of them are educated and so on. But it is very good, as you were saying, that children see that it is not necessary for all people who are in positions to be men. So this is what a role model means, that they don't have to be great, but just be present.
Now, I wanted to mention about Ségolène Royal because I run a program in France for 15 years. Ségolène Royal could never run in the United States. Why? She was an unmarried woman with 4 children out of wedlock. The United States is so conservative that unmarried, forget it. And all those children. In our culture, there's a stereotype that it is black women who are unmarried with 4 children. So somebody like her could never have risen in the ranks of her party, whichever party it was, she could not have risen. And then, of course, her partner, not her husband, right? Her partner who becomes president, of course, he is entitled to have whatever mistresses or whatever he has. But what if Ségolène Royal had said, oh, I'm going to bring in a few more men? As we know, anywhere in the world, the women are under a different standard and could not have, there's no word even for mistress. What is the word for a man?
male guy who is running her side.
Yeah, there's no
Womanizer,
word.
maybe.
No, but mistress could be just one guy, so there's no word.
Lover.
Your lover.
No, they're saying this in a nice way, fiancé. Fiancé.
But fiancé means you're going to get married.
No, this is a nice approach. You don't hurt the feelings of the guy. It's a fiancé.
Yes.
I think I wish to continue on this issue because I
Yes.
think it's an old issue among feminists. Do we agree that women will be, let's say, on conservative parties or in the political roles which are not advancing not only women's position but anybody's position? I think it's important somehow to also I don't know why we're asking that. I mean, I think that I sometimes don't think why we're asking it, but sometimes it's like, for example, there is no question that for me as a feminist that she should be a president. I mean, this is a huge step in advance. It's also for Obama, it was a huge step. We know that his foreign policy was the same like the one before, but he has made a difference. There is no question about that, even though he is not out as an Afro, but he has made a difference. You know how many Roma people in this country, kids, have said that this role model is Obama, you know? And the Roma kids, you know, it was really, I had to bring postcards from Obama when I was in New York for my friends' sons, etc. So it was a huge issue, I think, in the whole world and for her. So I think it's as a role modeling. I think I would vote for this choice that women should be on all roles, also on conservative. This is even though she's not conservative, but also as well on any position. I think it's important that we have to break this down and then start again, because this is for a movie that you know, I mean, the women are in I mean, restrictions like this 100 times, I would say, as a from psychological point of view, her life, I'm really worried, if you want to ask me, you know, how she as a woman will go through all this election time and afterwards if she wins. It's not easy because they're all in pressure. You know that?
Well, restrictions, I have to tell you, I'm working with the World Bank currently, and you know what was the main survey for the pedestrian exchange here in Serbia? I'm sorry, but it's very important just for you to know. The main question was how many women we do have inhabitants of Serbia, and how many property owners and young ladies and women are property owners of their flats, houses,
how many? What percentage?
In percentage you cannot imagine. And how small. And can you imagine? Not even that. And how many women are owner of their companies or small businesses? This was the first question of the
World Bank.
First World Bank, because I'm working for the Cadastre of Serbia. So by this, and how many of these property ownerships, etc., are from heritage or purchased directly?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 one people so forth. It's a drastic, when you see only the percentage, women are here.
Around the world, the ratio is so little.
Women are restricted everywhere. I know because I'm a VA, so how should I say, I'm a multi-culti mixture of a few, actually, how should I say, cultures, and I'm not Serbian, and I'm living here and working here, but do you know what happened to me in Austria? When I submitted for my working permit, and this is very important to know that in Europe, you are now engendering these kind of things. They said to me, they wrote me that I'm Turkish. Why? I don't know. Come in 3 months to take your papers. But they are, you know, saying this you, but you know, a very not nice quote. And I say, why? Because you're Turkish. Okay, I said, well, I'm not Turkish, but okay. I mean, no problem. I will come in 3 months. Why? Because everybody who is deriving from Serbia is automatically placed in this, you know, department for anything which is deriving from the Turkish and any kind of area. This I said, I'm sorry, I'm Greek Austrian. Why you didn't say? I said, why you should state in front that I'm Austrian and Greek? why is this so? We have restrictions everywhere. I'm sorry, but Europe as well a blur of a lot of things. Not only Serbia and not only the region. So as well, Europe has a tremendous problem with women issues.
Yeah.
Restrictions in you cannot do your job everywhere. You are less paid, of course. I was doubly not fair paid in Austria as a woman, as a PhD.
Everywhere, any country.
It took me 3 bad marriages, 3 children, 2 doctorates to come to this level, and still I'm fighting for my rights, my personal rights.
You know, they've done studies in different countries where they create your resume, right? And they will change the name, male, female, black, white. And no matter what country, the very same credentials, if the person hiring thinks it's a woman, oh no, this one is not as good. If they think it's a minority, this one is not as good. They did a recent study in law firms in America where they did an office memo, right? And they put deliberate errors in the office memo. Some errors were like spelling and grammar. Other errors were errors of legal reasoning, but they were in there. And then there was big firms, hundreds of lawyers. They gave names so that you would know it's a woman, and names so you would know it was a black or an Asian or Arab, right? And they handed out these memos. Once again, the partner would say, okay, there are 4 errors, but if they thought it was a white man, but he has potential. He will do better next time. If they thought it was a black man, there are 4 errors and he needs to be fired. The same things. And then they would find more errors for the blacks. Oh, there are 8 errors if it's a black, but they only found 4 errors if it's a white. But it's the same paper. So it's very interesting when you do the nuances, no matter what you do, if the name can be determined, they will discriminate. And they found with orchestras, music, if they know it's a female musician, they won't pick her. But if you do it behind a screen where they don't know the gender, then the women were being picked. So to me, the first step, which I like from our feminism and our race theory, the first step is to acknowledge that there is a problem. If you don't acknowledge there's a problem, you can't solve it. So for instance, France thinks there is no racism, we are all happy, we are all French. So you can't fix anything because they live in a fantasy that there's no problem. You have first identify the problem, and then you can work on the solutions. And if the solutions are the problem is cancer, then we need very big solutions, versus the problem is I just scratched myself, well then maybe the solution is small. So these theories I'm mentioning a little bit here are, I'm just throwing out there to learn from you and see about your context and the things you've already been doing. In terms of the issues you have here for gender, for race, ethnicity. In your country, you know, this region, the religions are a central part of identity in a way that they are not in the US. Somewhat, a little bit, but not to the degree here. And so our analysis on issues of religion is very weak, since that's not an area we've had to focus. But since I do Middle East, where whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or Jewish is the first identity everyone wants to know to put you into the proper box, I have to have another analysis where religion is much more complicated with ethnicity and other things. So,
if that's okay. Well, just about religion, it's also socially constructed.
All identities are socially constructed.
Here it's very, as raised in the US, I would say that, I would want to refer you back to the Lepa's question and about Hillary Clinton's as well. So what do you think? Let's just imagine that Angela Davis would run for presidency, and then she could win the presidency. What do you think? I mean, do you think that having a woman, apart from the fact that she's Angela Davis, an Afro-American woman, black woman, who's not dealing with the poverty issues, with class and race issues deep down, would that change things? I mean, this is the key feminist question about the representation, and it's very old, but it has to be tackled again and again.
I always look at it in two parts. First is just, is it better to have a woman or a black or a gay in the position? Just because it diversifies power. So I could first, that's separate. And I could say, yes, it is better in any country of the world to diversify power, just generally speaking, so that all aspects of the society can be part of the political process, period. Then let's talk about who am I? I'm a part of the Democratic Party. I'm more liberal than Barack Obama. So separately from that, I would not want a female who is, Sarah Palin, because that's, or Condoleezza Rice, because they're not my party. Generically, yes, more women should be in power, but when it comes down to actually voting, I am not going to vote for a woman or a black or a gay who is not in my political frame of reference in reality. Okay, even though I think, okay, it's good, it's Republicans are running, just like Margaret Thatcher, Indira Gandhi, these people were not feminist icons, but it's good overall that they were running and they were, having opportunity. However, do I agree with Margaret Thatcher's policies, Golda Meir's policies, some other women's policies? No, I would not vote for them if I were in their country. So then I will look at,